Hey everyone, I hope you're well. This is the story about what if Naruto was master of the forbidden jutsu Jiongu. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel and like the video as well. So without any further ado, let's start the what if. Forest of Death. Kamui. Everyone watched in amazement as Hamaguri's sword practically went through Naruto like he was a ghost. Naruto landed on the ground with a small bounce, while Hamaguri stumbled as he looked at Naruto with fear in his eyes. "What the hell are you?" Hamaguri cried as he tried to back away. Naruto was still in shock himself, not really understanding what had happened either. All he knew was that he sent a large burst of chakra to his eyes and turned into a ghost. "Naruto-kun, what was that?" Hinata asked as she knelt beside him. I don't know," Naruto said as he fished through his pockets for a kunai. "All I know is that I sent a huge amount of chakra to my eyes." He then whirled around and shoved Hinata behind him when he heard Hamaguri let out a battle cry and race forward with his sword out in front of him. "Die, you bloodline Frigiurk!" Hamaguri was stopped and looked down where a bone drenched in his blood was sticking out of his chest. He weakly turned around and saw that Shujin was behind him with an enraged expression. "Die, so I may be free," Shujin whispered as he roughly jerked the bone out of Hamaguri's chest. "You should have died with the rest of your family of freaks." Hamaguri gasped as he fell to the floor dead. Naruto's three masks shot out of the bushes and were about to rush the Kaguya until Naruto stilled them with a wave of his hand. Why would he do that to his own teammate? Shino asked as he stepped out of the bushes. "They were treating him like a slave because of his bloodline," Naruto explained. "Yes, they would use the seal that was on my body whenever they wanted to control me," Shujin explained. "Only a highly advanced seal master can have a chance of removing it." "Maybe my Ka-chan could help, she's really good with seals," Naruto said. Shujin seemed hopeful at the prospect of having his seal removed. "Naruto," Shino sighed, "do you just like picking up people to take home?" Naruto just blushed and rubbed the back of his head. He then pulled out the kunai with his other hand and looked at his eyes, widening them with what he saw. His Sharingan had completely changed. It now looked like an X that was reaching to the edges of his eye, but the ends were curved till they were touching extension of the X to its right. The colors were inverted also, making it a red X on a black eye with a black dot in the middle of the X. 1. "What is this?" Naruto asked. "The Mangekyo Sharingan," Kyubi told him. "An advanced form of the Sharingan. I'll explain more of it once you're asleep for the night." "It looks like another evolution of the Sharingan," Hinata noted. "I've never seen anything like it." "I've heard legends of it in Kiri," Shujin said. "They say it's called the Mangekyo Sharingan, and that it has unbelievable abilities, able to do things that others would only be able to perform weak imitations of. Such as that ability of intangibility. It's called Kamui, at least, that's the name I shouted out," Naruto said. "I still have no idea how I did it." "So what scroll did your team have?" Karen asked. Shujin walked over to Hamaguri's corpse and fished through his pockets till he pulled out an earth scroll before tossing it into Naruto's hands, who happily pocketed the scroll. "Now shall we go to the fish?" Shujin fell to the floor as his seal began to glow orange. He withered around in pain while Hinata and Karen tried to help him. "I knew you would betray us," Mekajiki said as he stepped out of the bushes, his hand held in a half-Tora seal. "Let him go!" Naruto roared, his newly acquired Mangekyo spinning wildly. Mekajiki chuckled before pressing more chakra into the seal, making Shujin's cries become louder. Hinata tried to find a way to stop the seal with her Byakugan while Karen used what little healing jutsu she had learned, but nothing seemed to work. The maniacal Kiri Genin reached into his pocket and pulled out a soldier pill before popping it into his mouth, making his chakra level skyrocket. "That must be how he was able to move after I left him, he must have taken one after he was sure that I was gone," Shino thought. "First I'm going to make you suffer, then I'm going to take you back to Kiri where you'll be given another seal. And that one will make sure that you never have free will ever again. Mekajiki shouted. You talk too much, Naruto said as he sent a mental command. Crab's claw burst through the Kiri Genin's chest with his heart in its clutches. Crab ripped the heart out and everyone watched as Mekajiki fell to the floor as his tormenting of Shujin ended. Naruto-kun, Hinata said as tears filled her eyes, I don't think he's going to make it. What? Naruto cried as he raced toward Shujin's side. The seal damaged his internal organs, just like how the brain would be damaged when someone would use the caged bird seal on a branch member, Hinata explained. That Kiri Genin had it activated for too long. It doesn't help that this seal is stronger than the caged bird seal. Not even my healing jutsus helped, Karen said as she lowered her head. 2. Damn it. Naruto swore as he slammed his hand into the ground. Naruto-san, Shujin said. Come closer. Naruto knelt beside the dying Kaguya and listened. You gave me hope that I would be free, and in a sense, I am. Now I have only 2 things to ask of you. What do you need? Naruto asked, ready to fulfill the Kaguya's last wishes. First, tell me, can your abilities take the powers of others? Shujin asked. Yes, but only if I take their hearts, Naruto told him. Good, take my heart, it won't help me where I'm going anyway, Shujin asked. Naruto looked at Hinata who activated her Byakugan. His heart is fine, it wasn't damaged as bad as the others thanks to Karen's help, Hinata told him. Okay, what's the other thing? Naruto asked. There is one more Kaguya out there, he will be the last one after I die, Shujin said. I want you to find him and keep him safe. The Uzumaki clan were allies of the Kaguya and 2 others in the past, so I trust you. What is his name? Naruto asked as he brought out his threads. Shujin smiled and said, his name is Kimimaro Kaguya, my little brother. Please find him and keep him safe. That is all I ask of you. I will find him and help him become strong so that he can fight in your name, Naruto said with determination. Before I take your heart, I have one thing to say. Your name means prisoner, but that is not what you are right now, Naruto said as he moved his tread so they went into the Kaguya's body painlessly. I'm going to give you a new name, one that defines who you are. Your name is Jiyu. 3. Yes, that fits nicely, thank you, Naruto, I'll be sure to treasure this wonderful gift you've given me. The gift of freedom, the newly named Jiyu said as he closed his eyes and accepted death with a smile on his face. Naruto pulled out his heart and watched the massive strings as it held Jiyu's heart. Hinata and Karen were openly crying at Jiyu's death, and Shino bowed his head as several tears fell down his cheeks. Naruto was crying as well but stayed strong. He took his trench coat from Fox and pulled out 3 scrolls. He stored Mekajiki's heart into one of them and pulled out a mask from the other. It was styled like Haku's but lacked the Kiri symbol and wave design, replacing it with red lines that were similar to Tenzo's mask, but there were no green markings. There was an area that had large pointy teeth where the mouth would be that opened up. He placed the mask on the threads that had Jiyu's heart and watched as the mask transformed. It had a spherical body with 2 strong legs sticking out of the bottom and a tail hanging from the back. It had long arms with small orbs on the end. The mask was sitting in the middle of the main body, staring at the group. 4. Naruto then walked over to Jiyu's body and opened the last scroll. He placed it next to Jiyu and slammed his hand on the sealing matrix that had the kanji for preserve written in the middle. In a puff of smoke, Jiyu's body was sealed inside the scroll, safely preserved until Naruto decided to release him. Let's go and set up camp, I feel really tired, Naruto said. Everyone nodded and leapt through the trees for a while until they came upon a small cave. Later, Naruto sighed as he sat on the rock by the entrance. He was concealed by the shadows and had a good view of the forest. He was still troubled over the day's events and was still feeling down about it. Are you okay? Naruto turned around and saw that Hinata was standing behind him. It amazed him how stealthy she could be. If she wanted to, she could have knocked him out and he would be none the wiser as to who did it. Yeah, I still feel like I should have done something, Naruto said. Hinata placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "It's not your fault, none of us knew what would happen to Shodaime Jiyu. We didn't know what his seal was capable of, so we couldn't have done anything." "I know that, but still." Naruto trailed off. "Shino-kun's already beating himself up for not making sure that the Kiri Genin was knocked out," Hinata told him. "You can't save everyone right now, Naruto-kun, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it when you're stronger." Naruto smiled and said, "Thank you, Hinata-chan, you always make me feel better." He reached over and wrapped her up in a hug, which she gladly returned, with a tomato-red face. "Now go and get some sleep, it's my turn to be the guard," Hinata said. Naruto nodded and went back into the cave before crawling into his sleeping bag. He closed his eyes and let his mind wander. He opened them again and saw that he was inside his mindscape, except he was in the hallway instead of being in front of the Kyuubi's cage. "Why am I here? I thought I would be at the cage." Naruto wondered. He heard water being moved around and turned to see someone he never expected in his mindscape. "Oh, hello Tenshi-san, are you here to take me to where I will spend all of eternity?" Jiyu asked. "And why have you taken the form of my friend Naruto?" Jiyu, this is my mindscape, the question I want to ask is, how the hell are you here?" Naruto shouted. Jiyu's eyes widened and he began to sputter. "But I died. Shouldn't I be in heaven or hell?" "I can answer that." Naruto and Jiyu looked to the side and saw a hallway where there was a red glow. "What did you do, Kyuubi?" Naruto shouted as he ran down the hallway, dragging Jiyu with him. Naruto skidded to a stop in front of the cage as Jiyu stumbled around to get his bearings. As soon as he cleared his head, he looked up and saw the towering bijou inside of the cage. "I see, so that is why you seemed familiar," Jiyu said quietly. "You're a Jinchuriki like Yagura and Utakata-senpai." "Who are they?" Naruto asked. "Yagura is the Yandame Mizukage and Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, and Utakata-senpai is the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi," Jiyu explained. Naruto nodded and turned back to his fluffy partner. "I decided to bring in his spirit to your body while you were busy speaking with him," Kyuubi said. 5. "I know what it's like to be trapped by a seal, and decided to do something nice for your Kaguya friend. Besides, what kind of extremely distant cousin would I be if I didn't help a fellow family member?" "What do you mean by that?" Jiyu asked. "Sit down, because this is a long story. You already know that the Rikudo Sennin had the two sons who would eventually create the Senju and Uchiha clans, but what you don't know is that his brother Hamura Otsutsuki created his own descendants, the progenitors of the Hyuga and Kaguya clans. Hiro and Shirudo were his sons. However, the brothers then decided to try and create a clan together. The result of this was a fiery redhead known as Akari Uzumaki, firstborn of the Uzumaki clan, and your ancestor." "Wow, that's amazing," Naruto said. "Indeed, I know that it sounds skeptical, but you can't doubt the words of the ones who truly knew the great sage," Jiyu replied. "Now what about my Mangekyo?" Naruto asked, activating his new eyes and looking at his reflection. "This is going to be an even longer explanation," Kyuubi sighed as he got himself comfortable. "The Mangekyo Sharingan is the highest form of the Uchiha clan's Jujutsu. It possesses a wide range of abilities and is unlocked through 3 ways. I suppose that our distant relative can listen since he's going to be here. The first way, which is more widely known throughout the Uchiha, is unlocking it through great grief. It was discovered to be unlocked through the killing of the ones closest to you. Brothers would try to kill each other just to get these eyes. The downside of unlocking it through this way is that the eyes would slowly deteriorate through each use until they were blind. The only way to fix this would be done by taking the Mangekyo of your closest relative, usually your brother or parents. By taking their eyes and inserting them into their own sockets, it combined both Mangekyo and turned them into the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan." "That's horrible!" Naruto cried. "Indeed, but back then, People would do anything for power. Now the second way to unlock the Mangekyo is more simple, yet not as greatly known throughout the clan, is by straining their Sharingan. By straining it I mean that they have to keep it active for a very long time and pushing their eyes to the limit. By unlocking it this way the user had a 50% chance of keeping their eyesight and not needing to take another set of Mangekyo Sharingan. That seems so much more simpler than the first way, Jiyu said. Indeed, but it is a long process and there were only a few Uchiha who would try to unlock the Mangekyo this way, Kyubi said. So they would just take the easy way out and kill one of their precious people? Naruto questioned. Kyubi nodded and continued, now the third and final way to unlocking the Mangekyo Sharingan is what I call the pure way. It is unlocked by neither great grief or great stress, but through sacrifice. But I didn't sacrifice myself, Naruto stated. But you were about to. When you shoved you little vixen out of harm's way, you did not even stop to think about what you were doing, you just acted because you wanted to protect her. When you attempted to sacrifice yourself, you activated the Mangekyo through pure intentions alone, not by being greedy and killing a loved one, but by being protective and saving one of your precious people. Unlocking the Mangekyo Sharingan this way prevents make you lose your sight, and can give you the potential to have eyes stronger than the eternal Mangekyo. Wow, so what can this Mangekyo do? Naruto asked. I don't really know, but I can direct you to the Uchiha clan's shrine where they have Jiji's tablet. It's a record of what had happened during his lifetime and the things he did. He also put in a listing of what the Mangekyo can do after having his Uchiha son perform them. Me and my siblings helped him create it, using our powers so that it would never be destroyed. Now it's time you woke up, morning has come, Kyubi said as he took a big breath and blew Naruto back into his real body. Morning. Naruto groggily opened his eyes and sat up, stretching and popping his stiff joints. He looked around and saw that Shino was awake and checking his supplies. Karen just walked in as it was her who had the last shift for the night. He looked to his left and saw Hinata wrapped up in her sleeping bag like a mummy, causing him to snicker at her. Deciding to lighten the mood, he unsealed a cinnamon bun and blew on it, pushing its scent towards Hinata. She quickly unraveled herself and leapt towards Naruto, who dropped the cinnamon bun and dove towards safety. Hinata quickly snatched up the snack and devoured it. She had a dreamy look in her eyes when she realized where she was. I did it again, didn't I? Hinata asked as she tried to hide her red face. Naruto just nodded with a large grin on his face while Hinata tried to become a turtle. As amusing as this is, we still need to get to the tower, Shino said. Bug Boy's right, I don't feel like having another run-in with another team of psychos, Karen pointed out. Naruto just chuckled and rubbed the back of his head. He then picked up a scroll out of his pocket and unsealed the mask that had Jiyu's heart. He looked at it in deep thought. How do you work your Kekkei Genkai? Naruto asked. You focus your chakra into your bones and control its growth, Jiyu informed him. You can alter its shape and density to however you wish. Naruto closed his eyes and did as Jiyu said. After sending the chakra through to his new heart, he opened his eyes and watched the changes happen. 2 large curved bones sprouted from each shoulder, acting like shields. 3 rows of spines popped out of the back, converging into 1 row as it went down the tail. 4 sharp claws came out of orbs and curved themselves. 3 talons crawled out of its feet while another bone slowly made its way out of the heel of the foot. I'll name you Shredder, Naruto said, thinking that it was the appropriate name for a creature with a lot of sharp weapons. Fitting name, Shino noted. Hinata and Karen just nodded in agreement and Naruto sealed up Shredder once more and changed the kanji on the seal so it now said its name on the scroll. I can't wait to try this guy out on someone, Naruto said giddily. Shino shivered at the thought and tried to focus on something else. 5 minutes later, teammate and Karen was jumping through the forest towards the tower when Naruto stopped them. What's wrong? Karen asked. I get the feeling that we're being watched, Naruto said. Hinata activated her Byakugan and looked around. I see a blob on chakra in the tree line above us, but I can't tell what it is, she said. Suiton, Tepidama. Naruto fired a water bullet at the area Hinata pointed him to, and punctured a hole through the tree. Strange, now it's gone, Hinata told him as she looked around. My insects can't tell what it was, but they say that the chakra was familiar, Shino informed them. Must have been a Konoha ninja, Naruto said. Hang on, I'm sensing about 12 chakra signatures converging in one place, Karen said. We should go and check it out, Shino said. Some of our former classmates might be there. $20 says that Sasuke dragged his team into something they couldn't handle, Naruto said, hoping that someone would take that bet. Naruto-kun, nobody would bet against you, especially since you're the opposite of Tsunade-sama, Hinata pointed out. Naruto just laughed and motioned for Karen to lead her new friends towards where she sensed the chakra signatures. With Team 7 and Team Dosu. Kiba swore as he and Akamaru knelt down on the floor in pain. That mummy Oto shinobi, Dosu if he remembered, had used a device on his arm to emit sound waves to incapacitate his enemies. And with Kiba being an Inuzuka, the attack hurt him even worse along with Akamaru. He looked over to where Lee lied on the floor, having been the original target of the attack. The green-clad genin had jumped in to help them after they were resting from their encounter with Orochimaru. The traitorous snake had bit Sasuke on the neck and gave him a gift as he called it, and told the Uchiha to seek him out for power before vanishing. After that, Kiba had lifted Sasuke and escaped while Sakura screeched about how her Sasuke-kun was hurt and needed her help. Sometimes, Kiba wondered how she even passed the graduation test in the academy. They had taken refuge in a hollowed tree where Sakura used her medical skills to help Sasuke. Kiba was surprised that she even knew some, considering the fact that she would stalk the Uchiha Scion every day. Now they were being attacked by the Sound Trio who had assaulted Kabuto in the beginning of the exams. They claimed that it was their mission to kill Sasuke, not surprising to Kiba considering that he was the last loyal Uchiha in Konoha. Even though he wanted to let them at the Downed Avenger, there were 3 things that would cause him trouble if that happened. 1. Sasuke was part of his team, which was by proxy, his pack. All Inuzuka were taught at a young age to defend the pack. So even though he was a prick, Sasuke was still a member of the pack. 2. His mother would definitely find out and rip him 3 new ones. Especially since she taught him all about being a part of a pack. 3. Sakura would wail and moan at the top of her voice until everyone in the world went deaf. Kiba shuddered at the last one. He had a sinking feeling he would still be able to hear her even if his ears were ripped off. Ha! These Konoha ninjas aren't so tough. The Oto nin with the spiky black hair, Zaku gloated as he looked at Kiba. Their kunoichi are even worse, the Oto kunoichi, Kin sneered as she held Sakura by her hair. Just look at this one, probably spends her time putting on makeup just to impress her Prince Charming. Just shows how superior Otogakure is, the leader, Dosu said. Kiba growled and took a step forward. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Kin said as she pulled harder on Sakura's hair, making the girl cry out in pain as the Oto kunoichi tried to pull the hair out of her scalp. Unless you want this wannabe kunoichi to see why she should just leave the fighting to the experts. Don't mock me. Sakura cried as she pulled out a kunai and sliced off her hair, making Kin jump back since she lost her grip on her prisoner. I'll fix this, Zaku said as he raised his hands, the tubes on his palms facing Sakura. But before he could fire, he suddenly stopped and struggled to raise his arms as they were forced down to his sides. Man, you just had to be in a troublesome situation, didn't you, Kiba? Shikamaru said as he walked out of the bushes with his shadow connected to Zaku, making the Oto nin walk towards him as well. Kin! Get this guy! Zaku yelled. Kin raised a fist full of Sanbon and prepared to throw them at Zaku when she froze and instead threw them at Dosu, forcing him to jump away. What are you doing? Dosu roared. Sorry, but your friend's not here right now, can I take a message? Kin said as she smirked. Kiba looked over and saw, out of the corner of his eye, Choji holding a limp Ino. Ino must have switched minds with her, Kiba realized. All that was left was to deal with Dosu. The remaining Oto ninja just threw a kunai at Kin. Ino quickly turned her prisoner's body just enough so that the weapon just grazed her cheek, leaving a thin cut. A similar cut appeared on Ino's cheek. This guy won't hesitate to attack his own teammates, meaning that our plan is useless. Shikamaru thought. Ino, get out of there. This guy will kill her just to kill you. Ino quickly released her hold over Kin and retreated back to her own body as the Oto Kunoichi snapped back into reality. What the hell just happened? Kin questioned as she looked around. That blonde bimbo took over your body before we forced her to release her jutsu, Zaku said. Now get this guy's shadow off of me. Kin nodded and threw several senbon at Shikamaru, who jumped back and brought Zaku close to getting hit by his own teammate. Dosu moved closer to the comatose Lee in an attempt to take him out when he was forced to dodge because of the barrage of kunai and shuriken that flew at him from the trees. In a quick second, Niji and Tenten dropped down between Dosu and Lee. They're like cockroaches, Dosu growled as he stepped back and prepared his melody arm. I should end you here and now, Niji said as he entered the Juken stance. Even though he may be annoying, Lee is still my teammate. However, before he could make a move, his Byakugan caught something from behind him. No, fate says that another will defeat you. At this time, teammate and Karen landed in the clearing. Looks like there's a party going on, Naruto said as he looked around. Indeed there does, Hinata said as she pulled out her bow and loaded it with an arrow. Just then there was an explosion of dark chakra from the small cave where Sasuke was as a black mist flowed out. Inside his mind, Kyubi growled as he sensed the dark chakra being emitted. Everyone looked as Sasuke stepped out of the cave with black markings on his skin. Sakura, who did this to you? Sasuke asked in an eerily calm voice. Sasuke-kun, Sakura managed to get out as she observed her not-so-secret love. Answer me. Sasuke demanded. I did. Zaku gloated. What are you gonna do about it? Zaku. Wait. Dosu cried out as he saw the markings on Sasuke's body. Don't worry Dosu, I'll take care of him. Zenku Kyakuwa. Zaku fired a massive gust of wind from the holes in his palms that leveled everything in front of him. When the dust settled, the area was blown to bits and Sasuke was nowhere to be seen. Was that supposed to do something? Sasuke asked as he stood behind Zaku. Before he could react, the Uchiha had kicked the Oto ninja to the ground and grabbed his arms. You seem pretty proud of these arms, I wonder what would happen if I took them away. Then Sasuke placed his foot on Zaku's back and began to pull on his arms. For some reason, that brat's become even more bloodthirsty than before, Kyubi said. There's something on him that's enhancing his desire for pain and suffering. Zaku fell unconscious as the pain of having his arms broken was too much for him. Sasuke grinned evilly and looked over and saw Naruto. Uzumaki. Fight me right now so I can show everyone my superiority. Sasuke demanded. But due to his crazed state, he never noticed Kiba as he snuck behind him and struck him in the back of the neck, effectively knocking him out. What did you do to Sasuke Kun? Sakura screeched. Ino would have shouted something as well, but was too busy holding her aching head after Sakura's yell. After shaking the ringing from his ears away, Kiba turned to Sakura and said, I was making sure that he didn't do anything stupid. In case you haven't noticed, we're surrounded by enemies. He then turned to Dosu and said, leave your scroll and I'll let you leave with your teammates. Dosu weighed his options for a second before pulling out his scroll and setting it on the ground before collecting Zaku and Kin and leaving. While this was going on, Niji had turned his attention to Hinata and said, Hinata-sama, must you embarrass the Hyuga clan by using something as useless as a weapon? In another dimension where Naruto never got the Jiongu and never became friends with Hinata early on, she might have faltered and stuttered some form of an apology. But this isn't that dimension, so Hinata looked at Niji directly in the eyes and asked. Niji and Ai-san, are you jealous about the fact that I'm allowed to use a weapon and you're not? Do you see this as another main family privilege? Niji saw red and was about to take a step forward when Tenten grabbed his arm and said, "We don't have time for this, we need to get out of here so Lee can get some proper medical attention." Hinata noted that Niji seemed to calm down a little when Tenten spoke. She filed that away as teasing material if her suspicions were right. Niji nodded and picked up Lee while he and his teammate fled the scene. "You know, we could just take your scroll since you guys are already down," Shikamaru said to the conscious members of Team 7. Kiba tensed up and Sakura looked nervous. "What do you need?" Naruto asked. "Heaven," Shikamaru said while raising an eyebrow. He quickly caught the scroll that Naruto threw at him and asked, "You're just giving it to us?" "We've got extras," Shino said as he pushed up his glasses. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything as he and his team left the area. "Hey!" Kiba shouted as Team 8 prepared to leave. "You wouldn't happen to have another extra, would you? Ours was kinda destroyed when Sasuke tried to trade it for his life." "Don't say bad things about Sasuke Kun," Sakura yelled. After regaining her hearing, Karen reached into her pouch and tossed Kiba the other heaven scroll they had. Kiba caught it and raised an eyebrow at the fact that Akusa Genin was with them. He was a little wary due to their last encounter with one, but Karen didn't smell like snakes so he wasn't worried that much. "See ya at the tower," Naruto said as he and his friends jumped away. 2 hours later, the tower. "So what are we supposed to do now?" Hinata asked. "I think we have to open the scrolls," Naruto said. "But the proctor said that we shouldn't open the scrolls," Karen said. Naruto shook his head and told her, "She said not to open the scrolls until we reach the tower." "I believe that Naruto is right," Shino said. "But first I would like to know something. Hinata, can you use your Byakugan to see what is in the scrolls?" Hinata nodded and took a good look at the scrolls before saying, "They look like the kanji that appears when Naruto-kun performs a summoning. Maybe we need to overlap them when they open." "Worth a shot," Naruto said as he made 2 Kage Bunshin. The clones took the scrolls and quickly opened them up while the rest of Team 8 stood back. In a puff of smoke, Iruka Umino stood before them. "Iruka-sensei!" Naruto shouted in surprise. Iruka gave a large grin and said, "Wow, you guys were the 4th team to arrive, and the first team from Konoha as well. And it's only the 2nd day. Ha! I knew we were awesome." Naruto shouted as he pulled Shino and Hinata into a group hug, with the Aburame trying to escape. "So, who's your new friend?" Iruka asked as he looked at Karen. "Oh yeah," Naruto realized as he remembered his new cousin. "This is Karen, I think that she may be an Uzumaki. I want to go and see Gigi to make sure." "Excuse me Iruka-sensei," Shino interrupted, "but who arrived before us?" Iruka thought. First it was a team from Suna with a redhead carrying a gourd. Second was a team from Kyumo, third was a group from Taki with a green-haired girl, and I thought Sakura was the only one to have weird hair. "That's Fu, our new friend," Hinata said. "How'd you manage to befriend a foreign shinobi?" Iruka asked. "What can I say? My charm just wins people over," Naruto said with a large grin, causing Hinata to giggle in amusement. Karen snorted, in a good-natured way, and Shino rolled his eyes behind his glasses. "Alright Romeo, let's go before your ego takes you away," Iruka teased as he led everyone inside of the tower. He showed them where their rooms were and that there was a training area, kitchen, and a hot springs area for relaxation. He told them that they had 3 days left till it was time for the 3rd exam, and that they couldn't fight against another team, but was allowed to spar with each other. After Iruka had left, Naruto and his team went to where the Sandaime was residing in the tower for the entire 2nd exam. After being let in, he was greeted by the sight of Hiruzen, Kakashi, and a female Anbu member wearing a fox mask. But what really got Naruto's attention was the bright red hair that was in a ponytail that reached her lower back. "Ka-chan? What are you doing?" Naruto asked. He was sure that Kushina wouldn't be able to move for another month at least. "Why, I'm being Hokage-sama's assistant," Kushina said as she took off her mask to show her smirking face. What? Didn't think that I would be up and about by now? Honestly? Yeah, I kinda did, Naruto told her. Bachan told me that you would be up in a month. Kushina grinned and said, I told her to say that to you so I could give you a surprise. The damage to my muscles wasn't as bad as we thought, and all it took was a few weeks of physical therapy. Of course, I can't push myself as hard as I used to for a couple of weeks, but I'll be back in tip-top shape after that. That's great, Kushina-san. Hinata said. So who's the redhead with you? Kakashi asked. Naruto pushed Karen forward and she said, My name is Karen, I believe that I am an Uzumaki. Kushina's eyes widened and she stepped forward towards the girl. She has the hair and the skin tone, but I think that Tsunade-sensei should do some blood tests to see if you really are one. But what about Kusa? Surely they wouldn't like us taking one of their shinobi? Karen-san is the only survivor of her team, with them being dead. Kusa will believe that Karen-san is also dead, Shino explained. So if she is kept hidden for a small amount of time, then Kusa will forget about her. An excellent idea, Hiruzen agreed. But has she agreed? I don't care about Kusa, they treated me like dirt anyway, Karen huffed. Hiruzen just chuckled, this girl was almost similar to a younger Kushina. Now if only her hair was much longer she would have almost passed as her. So what else happened in there? Kakashi asked as his fingers twitched towards his back pouch where his little orange book was. He would have read it, but Kushina threatened to neuter him with a rusty senbon if he was reading it in her presence. The only good news was that he was safe if she either ran into him while he was reading, or she arrived at his location unannounced. Well, I can't really say it with Karen in here, Naruto said. Why not? Karen asked. Hiruzen caught on and told her, there are some things that can't be said with you present since you're just joining the village. In time when we are more relaxed with your presence, you can be in on conversations like this one, but until then I have to ask you to stay outside the room for a minute. Karen saw the logic in that statement and walked outside. Once the door was shut, Hiruzen activated the privacy seals that were under his desk. So what's up? Kushina asked. Well, I have another tenant, Naruto said bluntly, shocking everyone in the room. Shino had been trusted with the information of the Kyuubi and Naruto and held no ill will against him. He felt a stronger connection with the blonde due to his family being feared of because of their insects. How did you get another tenant? Hinata asked. It all started when I took Jiyu's heart, Naruto began. And so he told them about what had happened in his mind with the Kyuubi, showing them his Mangekyo Sharingan. When he had activated his new eyes, Hiruzen fell over foaming at the mouth, much to Naruto's amusement as he remembered what had happened when he showed the aged Hokage his normal Sharingan. After a quick recovery and explanation as to what had happened, Hiruzen dismissed the team and they retreated to their room for the night. Next day, Naruto and Hinata were up and about and on their way to the kitchen. Shino was still sleeping and they didn't want to wake him up. Naruto remembered the last time he had woken the Aburame heir up. Let's just say that it involved a lot of bug bites in uncomfortable places. Upon entering the kitchen they saw that only two people were in there. A blonde Kyumo genin was drinking a glass of milk at one end of the table and, strangely, playing with a ball of yarn. On the other end was their green-haired friend Fu eating a slice of toast while looking at a magazine. Upon seeing the Kyumo genin, Hinata shook a little before she steeled her nerves. Naruto smiled seeing his best friend starting to get over her fear of Kyumo ninja. Yo Fu! Naruto called out. The Taki Kunoichi looked up and smiled seeing her friends. Hey guys, I'm glad that you got here. I was afraid that I was gonna go crazy without some more friends, Fu told them. More? Did you make some more friends, Fu? Hinata asked. Yup, over there is Yujito-ni, she helped me against a team of AIM when my teammates left me there to distract them, Fu explained as she scowled at the mention of her team. Yujito got up and walked over to the trio while eyeing Naruto curiously. Nice to meet you 9, Yujito said as she extended her hand. Naruto looked at her with a look of shock on his face until he heard Kyubi in his head. Asterisk sniff sniff asterisk smells like hairballs, soot, and kitty litter, Kyubi said. Oh. I also smell raging hormones, looks like Nibby's getting horny again. 6. Nice to see you as well, Miss 2, Naruto greeted as he shook her hand. Hinata caught the hidden meaning between the words and her eyes widened. There's another Jinchuriki here? Hinata asked. I thought that it was only you, Gaara, and Fu. Kyubi said that he thought that he smelled another but wasn't really sure until now, Naruto explained. You know about his tenant and are okay with it? Yujito asked. I know the difference between a kunai and the scroll it's sealed in, Hinata deadpanned. Yujito just smiled sheepishly and looked away. So I'm guessing that you're treated badly in Kyumo? Naruto asked. It's bearable, but yeah, I'm not exactly village favorite, Yujito said. That would be my sensei Killer Bee, I'm sure he'd like to meet you. What makes you say that? Naruto asked. I'll leave that for him to explain, she told him. Well, I've gotta go, my team's doing some training in a few minutes. She waved bye as she left the kitchen and walked off to the training area. So how have you been doing, Fu? Hinata asked. Fu sighed and said, I've been managing, but those bastards I'm stuck with are driving me up the wall. Have you tried being friendly with them? Hinata asked. Yes, but they just ignore me and try to attack me while making it look like an accident, Fu told her. I'm honestly thinking of leaving the village. I highly doubt that they would miss me, but would think it's the end of the world if they lose the Nanabi, their only weapon that doesn't kill them. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What do you mean by that? He asked. Well, I can't say too much, but there's something in Taki that allows people to get a major boost of chakra, but can kill them if they use too much, Fu explained while trying not to say much. I think I understand, Hinata says. I don't get it, Naruto admits. Hinata sighs and explains, it's like in jutsu, if you're not careful with how you execute it, you could use up all of your chakra and kill yourself. Ah, I get it now, Naruto says with an embarrassed grin on his face. Well, you shouldn't leave the village, you might be able to make the villagers like you if you work hard enough, Naruto tells her. Hey, you might even get a fan club, of course that means you'll have to run away from the fanboys. Fu blushed a little under that praise and felt really happy at Naruto's encouragement. It left a funny feeling in her that she couldn't identify. Hinata saw this and gave a small, unnoticeable glare. She knew what was happening with Fu and knew that Naruto had unintentionally started to woo her. However, she squashed that dark part of her mind as she thought about Fu's life. She knew that the Greenette didn't understand what love felt like and honestly wanted to try to help. The only problem was that she didn't know how. Thanks, Naruto, nobody's ever made me feel this happy before, Fu told him while surprising him with a small hug. The young Uzumaki was stunned for a moment before he nervously returned the hug. Ah, you're welcome, was Naruto's intelligent reply. Fu released him and smiled as she walked away, a small happy skip in her step. Naruto turned around and saw Hinata with a small pout on her face, making him slightly nervous. Why don't I get a hug? Hinata whined, mentally laughing at the panicked look on his face. Naruto panicked for a second before he wrapped Hinata in his arms in a fierce hug that made both of their faces glow. Asterisk cough asterisk whipped cough, Kyubi muttered, making Jiyu snicker. Naruto and Hinata released each other and looked away while blushing. Gah, why did I feel like that with Fu? Naruto thought. It almost felt like what I feel like with Hinata. Is it possible that I like her too? Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Wonder how the kid's going to handle this. Kyubi thought. Chunin Exams Tower. It had been several days since Naruto and his friends had arrived at the tower, and the second exam would be closed in only a half hour. Team 8 was currently in a small arena waiting for all the other teams that would pass the exam. There were 3 balconies that wrapped around most of the room, all connected. At the far end was a large statue of a pair of hands in the Hitsuji seal. Gathered in the same room was Team 9, Team 10, the Kyumo team, the Taki team, the Oto team and the Suna team. Standing on the balconies were the Hokage, Anko, Ibiki, the Jonin senseis for the teams, Tsunade, and Shizune. Standing next to Hiruzen was a familiar fox-masked Anbu. "So what are we waiting for?" Choji asked. "For the second exam to be finished," Naruto answered. "We've got about 30 minutes or so if I'm right." "I hope Kiba's team makes it," Hinata said. "That much better not cause Sasuke-kun to fail." Ino growled. Shikamaru sighed and muttered something about troublesome blondes under his breath. Several minutes later, Kabuto's team entered the area with small scratches and bruises on their visible skin. Looking over, Naruto saw Sasha hiding in the shadows of the exit corridor. Naruto signaled her to wait until he could come over. Anko leaned over to Hiruzen and whispered, "I just got word that the Uchiha's team entered the tower. We can't allow him to compete with that curse mark on him." Hiruzen turned to her and whispered back, "We can't do that, Anko-chan. If we deny Sasuke the chance to fight, it might make him believe that we're holding him back. If that happens, then he'll listen to Orochimaru's whispers of power and run to him. Kakashi has a seal that will lock away his curse mark." "I still don't like it, but I'll go along with it for now," Anko grumbled. Hiruzen chuckled and said, "Don't worry, first sign the seal's taking over, we're pulling him out." 20 minutes later, a ragged and tired Team 7 ran through the corridor. Kiba seemed to be glaring daggers at both of his teammates while Akamaru slept soundly in his hood. "What happened to you?" Naruto asked as he eyed Kiba's injuries. "I'll tell you later," Kiba replied. "After I catch my breath." Anko stepped forward and said, "Well now, since nobody else is going to come, I can officially announce that the second exam is over. Congratulations to all of you who managed to make it." Hiruzen then stepped forward and began, "Yes, congratulations to all of you, you've made your villages proud by surviving the forest of death. However, I think I should explain the true meaning of the Chunin exams." And Hiruzen then explained to all of the Chunin hopefuls about how the Chunin exams were created and how they were a substitute for war. He told them that by putting their lives on the line, they would bring pride to their villages. "Enough of this, let's get on with the fighting," Gaara said. Before Hiruzen could say anything, the fox-masked Anbu jumped down. "Forgive me, Hokage-sama," Kitsune said, "but allow me to explain the next part." Hiruzen nodded and stepped back while Kitsune moved forward. "All right, boys and girls, you may refer to me as Kitsune, and I'm going to be in charge of this part of the exam," Kitsune said. "Unfortunately, there are too many of you and we need to hold a preliminary round." "What? Why do you need that?" Ino yelled. Kitsune sighed and explained, "There are too many of you and the final round of the exams is the really important part. There will be a lot of important clientele coming to observe whoever makes it. If we had every one of you fight, then the matches would take too long, especially if two geniuses were to fight, or worse yet, two stamina freaks." Naruto, Temari, Lee, Guy, and Shikamaru sneezed simultaneously, prompting those who knew them to chuckle. "Now then, if there's anyone who would like to drop out now, please raise your hand and you'll be escorted out of the tower," Kitsune announced. Kabuto promptly raised his hand. "You're leaving, Kabuto-senpai?" Sakura asked. "Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing out of my left ear after that scuffle with the Otonins back before the written exam," Kabuto said as he sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. "And I got hit hard on my leg, so I can't fight all that well." "He's lying," Hinata noted as she observed him with her Byakugan. Kabuto was a good liar, she almost missed the extremely small twitch in his muscles that signaled he was lying. It didn't help that his leg wasn't injured, but he did make the limp look real as he left. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Naruto signal Sasha to follow the silver-haired teen. "Since nobody else is leaving," Kitsune said, jolting Hinata from her thoughts, "we'll get on with this. Please look behind me at the screen to see who's fighting." A large screen lowered from the ceiling and everyone turned their attention to it. The first pair of names that flashed on screen were Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoryo Akato. Alright, everyone who isn't fighting will go up to the balconies and wait your turn, Kitsune said. Soon it was only her, Sasuke, and Yoroi still in the arena. Everyone listen up cuz I'm only going to say this once. Kitsune shouted, getting everyone's attention. I am the proctor of these matches, so my word is law. Both combatants will fight until one of you gives up, is knocked out, or dies. If I decide that a match is over, then I will step in and declare who I see as the winner. If you refuse to comply and continue to attack your opponent, I will interfere and may cause you to lose consciousness, or decide to take off one of your limbs, Kitsune said with an eerily cheerful tone. Oh Kushina! Hiruzen groaned. Ah, brings back memories, Tsunade sighed as she remembered all those adventures with her Genin team. That's Kushina, alright, Kakashi thought with a sweat drop. I think we could be best friends. Anko thought cheerily. Sensei's still got it, Kurenai thought with a proud smirk. Why do I get the feeling I would wish I was dead if I ever fight her when she's angry? Orochimaru, disguised as the Oto Jonin, thought as he suppressed a shudder. The loss of a limb. How unyouthful, do I even need to say who this is? Naruto-san's mother is unique, Jiyu said. Kyubi snorted and said, unique doesn't even begin to describe that woman. Trust me. I've been in her a long time. So, are both fighters ready? Kitsune asked. Both Sasuke and Yoroi grunted in confirmation. I asked a question and I expect an answer, Kushina said with a dangerous tone. I'm ready, Yoroi said. A little scared by the tone Kushina had. Whatever, Sasuke grunted. Behind her mask, Kushina's eye began to twitch. Then let the match begin. Kushina declared as she leapt back, out of the way. Yoroi and Sasuke threw shuriken at each other and moved to the left. Sasuke's curse mark flared up and caused him to lose his balance. Yoroi saw this and raced forward and grabbed Sasuke by the shirt and pinned him down as his hand began to glow blue. Sasuke felt his strength being taken and quickly hit Yoroi in the arm, forcing the older shinobi to release him. You're stealing my chakra, Sasuke stated as he panted. So, you figured it out? Yoroi asked in amusement. Yoroi's special ability allows him to drain his opponents of their chakra whenever he makes contact with them, Orochimaru thought to himself, now you'll have no choice but to rely on the seal. Go ahead Sasuke-kun, release its power. Yoroi took the opportunity to dash at Sasuke and extended his glowing palm. The Uchiha Scion bent backwards and kicked Yoroi into the air. Lee, his team, and Team 8 recognized this as the beginning of the attack Lee was going to use on Sasuke all those days ago. Dancing Shadow Leaf? Yoroi asked as Sasuke appeared behind him. From here on out, it's all original, Sasuke declared as he prepared to attack, but his curse mark flared up and covered the left side of his face in burning red marks. Every Konoha Jonin who was aware of the curse mark prepared to take action. Yes! Orochimaru hissed as he licked his lips. However, to everyone's surprise, the curse seal retraced back into its dormant state. Without being hindered by the pain, Sasuke completed his attack, which composed of a series of kicks that finished with a large kick to the stomach as Yoroi hit the ground. Shurshur Rindan! Sasuke cried as he leapt back and dropped down to his knees. Sasuke Uchiha wins the match, Kushina declared. Kakashi appeared next to Sasuke and put a hand on his shoulder as he shined them away. Naruto sighed and rested his head on his arms as they rested on the railing. Man, who knew that Teime would steal someone else's techniques? He asked. Well, he does think that he should get whatever he wants, so I'm not all that surprised, Hinata said. What about you Naruto? Would you steal others' techniques? Shino asked. Only if they say I can, I don't want to be known as a thief, the blonde Uzumaki replied. You kind of are a thief already, Kurenai stated. Naruto turned to his sensei and said, the Uchiha was going to kill me, Mizuki was going to kill Iruka sensei, that guy on the bridge hurt Hinata-chan, and you already know about my latest ones. Will the next fighters please come down? Kushina asked. Everyone turned their attention to the screen and saw the next pair of fighters. Shino Aburame vs Jiro of Taki. Looks like I'm up, Shino said as he made his way downstairs. Hey, Shino! Naruto called out. The Aburame heir turned back to his teammate. You better not lose. The bug user smirked and nodded his head as he made his way down into the arena. He stood across from the Taki ninja that was cracking his knuckles and slipped on some spiked gloves. I'm gonna beat you to a pulp and show everyone that Taki is superior, Jiro declared. Alright, are both fighters ready? Kushina asked. Yeah, Jiro told her. Shino just nodded silently. Then let the match begin, Kushina shouted as she jumped back again. Jiro raced forward and threw several punches at Shino, but the young Aburame just dodged all the hits without much effort. Stand still and let me hit you, Jiro roared. That would be illogical. Why? Because allowing you to hit me would be counterproductive to getting me victory, Shino said in a monotone voice that angered the Taki genin. Man, Shino's going to make him do something stupid, Shikamaru noted as he watched the fight lazily. Of course that idiot's going to do something stupid, Fu said as she walked over to Konoha's side of the balconies. What are you doing over here? Choji asked. I figured it would be much better to hang out with people who don't hate my guts, Fu said. Well then, welcome, Naruto greeted as he flashed her a smile. Shikamaru wanted to question Fu about her words, but decided to hold off on that for now. Back in the arena, Shino had started his counterattack after Jiro had tired himself out. The Aburame was holding one of his swords and using it to attack Jiro. The Taki nin blocked most of the attacks with his gloves, but some had made their way through and gave him some shallow cuts. And here I was hoping for a challenge, Shino taunted. I'll show you a challenge, Jiro said as he jumped back and made several hand seals. Suiton, Teppadama no Jutsu. He opened his mouth to fire off the water bullet, but all that came out was a small trickle of water. What happened? Didn't he perform the jutsu correctly? Sakura asked. Naruto discreetly activated his Sharingan and looked at the arena, smirking at what he saw. That's clever, Naruto said in a low voice so that only Hinata, Kurenai, and Kiba, with his advanced hearing, could hear. What is it? Kiba asked quietly. Watch, Shino's going to explain it soon, was all that Naruto said. What did you do to me? Jiro asked as he dropped down to his knees in exhaustion. It's pretty simple, Shino began, in the beginning of the match, after your initial attack, when you made eye contact with me, I had placed a special genjutsu on you. It causes you to use up more chakra without realizing it. I was expecting you to use several jutsu in this match to help speed things up, but that wasn't needed since you were using chakra in your attacks. How did you know? Jiro asked. Tried to keep himself from falling unconscious. We Aburame are trained to have sharp eyesight, so we may spot even the tiniest of insects. I had noticed small wisps of chakra coming from your hands whenever you would attack. It also helped that I placed several insects on you during my attacks. He then held up his sword and said, you see, these swords were specially designed for me. I would have insects crawl in the handles and up the blade. There, they would exit the blade and latch onto my opponents, taking their chakra. Jiro finally fell down and Kushina said, the winner is Shino Aburame. Way to go, Shino! Naruto cheered. Shino walked back up to the balcony as a small swarm of bugs escaped Jiro's body and flew back into Shino's coat. The medical team then picked up the comatose Jiro and carried him off. Next fighters, Kushina called out. Tenten Higurashi vs Shikamaru Nara. Well, at least I can get my match over with and get back to sleep, Shikamaru thought as he walked down the stairs. I wonder how Shika's going to handle this, Naruto thought out loud. Isn't he the laziest person in your class? Kurenai asked. Indeed, but Shikamaru-san is also a genius, Shino said. As far as I know, only his father has been able to beat him in a game of shogi. Kurenai just blinked and couldn't say anything. Yeah, that was my expression, too, Asuma said as he chuckled at the female Jonin's expression. Go Tenten. Show everyone your flames of youth. Guy shouted. Tenten just groaned and tried to find a hole to hide in. Man, it must be troublesome to have to deal with a sensei like that, Shikamaru said as he lazily glanced at the spandex-wearing man as he hugged his mini-clone. You have no idea, the kunoichi grumbled. Are both fighters ready? Kushina asked. Both Konoha shinobi nodded and Kushina started the match as she jumped away. Tenten took out a scroll and unsealed a kozurigama, twirling its weighted ball as she waited to see what Shikamaru would do. Alright, she doesn't look like she's a taijutsu person, her build isn't that tough, Shikamaru thought as he observed Tenten. Judging by how she handles herself, she looks like a weapon user. She has that one hand that's holding the blade closer to her scrolls, ready to take out another if she wants it. Looks like this one's going to be a bit challenging. Tenten got tired of waiting and raced toward Shikamaru and swung the weight at him. The young Nara leaned back and watched as the metal object flew across his vision before he lashed out with a kick. Tenten twisted her body to the side and dodged it before sending the weight at him again. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered before he leaned back and grabbed the chain before yanking the weapon away from Tenten. She quickly took out a scroll and leaped into the air before whipping it open and sending several weapons at Shikamaru. The Nara jumped back and avoided most of the weapons, however he got a shallow cut on his leg from a stray Tonto. You're good, Tenten said, I thought I might have had you with that one. You might have, but then it would have been a pain to lose, Shikamaru said. Especially to a girl, he mumbled quietly. Unfortunately, Tenten managed to pick up on that last part and glared at him. She then started to throw a large variety of weapons at him, forcing Shikamaru to put in a lot of effort in order to dodge. Suddenly, as Tenten took a short breather, her body froze. Finally, I thought that you would never stop, Shikamaru sighed as he stood up, Tenten being forced to do the same. What? But how? I know about the Nara's abilities, but your shadow isn't even extended. Tenten cried. How about you look closer, Shikamaru said as he tilted his head down. Tenten looked down as well and saw a small shadow connected to her weapons. Following the trail, she saw that Shikamaru had bounced his shadow off of her discarded weapons in order to reach her. So now what? Tenten asked. Shikamaru said nothing as he reached forward and grabbed air. Tenten did the same, but grabbed a nearby sword that was embedded in the ground. Shikamaru made Tenten pull out the sword and had her aim it at her hand. So, Shikamaru began, are we going to do this the easy way where you willingly surrender? Or am I going to have to make you hurt yourself until you do? Seeing no way out of this, Tenten sighed and said, I surrender. Shikamaru Nara is the winner, Kushina said. The Nara air made Tenten drop the sword on the ground before releasing her from his Kage-main. Don't worry Tenten. Your flames of youth are still burning brightly. Guy cheered. Kushina threw a kunai at him and sent a glare from behind her mask. Inside voice. Was all she said. Very unyouthful, Lee said. Kushina sighed and asked, will the next fighters please come down? Sakura Haruno vs Temari Sabaku. Well, looks like I won't have to put up much effort, Temari thought. Though I would have loved to fight a real kunoichi, like those Kyumo girls, or the Taki and Hyuga girls with strange hair. Yes. Now I can show Sasuke-kun how strong I am. The howler monkey eye means Sakura screeched, making everyone in close proximity go deaf. Temari was beginning to think that knocking her out would do everyone a favor. Knock her out, Kushina chanted, rooting for Temari and hoping that Sakura would be knocked out. Are both fighters ready? Yeah, Temari droned as she took a look at her nails. Shaw! I'll pound you into dust. Sakura said as she sent a pitiful amount of ki at Temari. To the Suna kunoichi, it felt like a fly was breathing on her. Begin. Kushina started the match and stayed where she was, not really concerned for her safety since she had already seen Sakura's skills, or rather, lack thereof. She knew that Temari wouldn't even have to pull out any big moves to even win. Shinaro! Sakura roared as she charged forward with a kunai. Temari just stared at her with a bored expression and brought up her folded fan to block it with one hand. Wanting to end this pathetic match early, she quickly disarmed Sakura and slammed her fan into the Pinkette's gut, sending her into the wall and knocking her out. Everyone waited for the match to end, but Kushina didn't make the call. Everyone looked over and saw her sitting in a chair and reading an issue of Konoha Weekly while sipping a drink as the straw went under her mask. One. Fox! Hiruzen yelled. Kushina yelped and looked around, pocketing the magazine and throwing away the drink. Oh, is it over? Kushina asked while rubbing the back of her head. The winner is Temari. Now will the next fighters come down? Naruto Uzumaki vs Omoi of Kyumo. Alright. I'm up. Naruto cheered as he vaulted onto the railing. Good luck, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Thanks, Hinata-chan, Naruto said as he turned to Shino. I will not wish you good luck, Shino said. Ah! Was the intelligent reply of his teammates and sensei. Please let me finish, Shino started as he held up his hand. I will not wish you good luck for two reasons. One being that you have no need for luck. And two? Naruto asked. I will instead wish you a good victory, Shino stated. Naruto grinned and gave him a salute before he jumped into the arena. He could feel his mother's proud look through her mask. Oh boy, this might be a problem. What if he's a very important person in the village and I give him a life-crippling injury? What if he's related to a royal clan and they want revenge for what I did? Omoi began to panic before Karui bashed his head in. Don't you start with that crap. Karui roared. If you start your little panic, think I'm going to beat you into the ER. Man oh man, you two ain't fly, if you keep this up, you'll make me cry, their sensei rapped. Too, he was a large man with dark skin and wore a Kyumo Jonin outfit. He had blonde hair and had a small goatee. He wore shades and had a tattoo of bull horns on his cheek. On his back were several small swords. But B-sensei, Omoi protested. But Karui had other ideas. She lifted Omoi up and threw him into the arena. Naruto was standing there with an amused grin on his face. Are both fighters ready? Kushina asked. Yeah, Naruto nodded. I guess so, Omoi replied. This guy makes Isabu look brave, Kyubi thought with a sweat drop. Begin. Kushina jumped back and Naruto raced forward with his gauntlets ready to slice and dice. Omoi quickly brought up his sword to block it. He then aimed a kick at Naruto's torso and sent the young Jinchuriki skidding back across the ground. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Naruto blew out a large fireball at Omoi. The white-haired Kyumo teen jumped to the side and avoided the flames as they impacted against the wall behind him. Suiton, Mizurappa. Omoi cried as he launched a large stream of water at Naruto. Doton, Doriyahiki. Naruto made the necessary hand seals and stomped his foot on the ground. A large slab of earth sprung up from the ground and blocked the jet stream as it impacted against the earth, only loosening a few pebbles. Omoi jumped over the wall and aimed his sword down at where he thought Naruto would be. But when he cleared the wall, Naruto wasn't there. The next thing he knew, he was knocked down to the floor by a metal fist. Omoi looked back to see that Naruto had disguised himself as part of the wall and struck Omoi in the back. You're a strange one, Omoi noted. Not a lot of people ever use a trick like that. Well, I consider myself to be very unpredictable, Naruto replied with a smirk on his face. Omoi said nothing and darted at Naruto while swinging his sword in attempts to get a good cut on the blonde. Responding to the attacks, Naruto either dodged them or parried with his gauntlets. Seeing an opening, Naruto swiped his claw at Omoi and the white-haired genin jumped back. Naruto then spun in place and punched at the air between him and Omoi, an action that confused everyone who didn't know what he could do before those looks were replaced with shock as the metal fist came flying at Omoi as it was connected to his arm by crimson threads. What the heck was that? Ino shouted as she saw the threads. I don't know, was Asuma's only reply. He looked over and saw that the rest of Team 8 was unfazed. Looking further, he saw that neither Kakashi, who had returned, nor his only remaining member of Team 7 looked shocked either. They probably saw it when they were in Nami no Kuni, Asuma thought, having heard about the mission when he and Kurenai had met up for lunch one day. When both their teams coincidentally had a day off. Impossible, that looks like Kakuzu's technique, Orochimaru thought, having returned from his small encounter with Kakashi after he sealed Sasuke's curse mark. But he took their Kinjutsu from Taki after he was banished. So how does the Kyuubi brat have it? Shikamaru was silently observing his blonde-haired friend with a calculating gaze. No matter how hard he thought of it, he had no clue as to what Naruto had just done. Though, it may have something to do with that particularly long stitch mark I saw on him, the Nara heir thought. Back in their academy days, on a hot summer afternoon, Naruto had used his shirt to wipe his sweating forehead and Shikamaru saw what appeared to be a stitch mark that ran along his side. Looks like everyone's paying attention now, Naruto thought. Indeed, I wonder how you'll handle this. Jiyu wondered as he leaned against the bars of the cage. Naruto tuned back into the battle and let his other arm fall off as he used both of them like flails, pounding away at Omoi from a distance. Suiton, Mizu Bunshin, Omoi created several clones from the water that was pooled on the other side of the earth wall and had them attack Naruto from behind. Naruto merely turned around and fired off several threads that pierced the clones and turned them back into puddles. Naruto quickly sent out a web of threads that quickly wrapped around Omoi and restrained him. Seeing that he couldn't break free or make any head seals with his arms restrained at his sides tightly, the Kyuumo Genin had no choice but to surrender. The winner is Naruto, Kushina said, just barely able to keep the pride from her voice. Naruto grinned and jumped back onto the balcony where he was quickly congratulated by the Konoha ninjas, except for Kabuto's other teammate and Niji and Fu. On the other side of the arena, Gaara stared at Naruto with a hungry look, one that possessed a hint of madness in it. He would enjoy killing this blonde boy and giving his blood to the mother. Next fighters, please, Kushina announced. Yujito Neef vs Kiba Inuzuka. Alright, Akamaru. It's our turn. Kiba shouted as he and the small white dog raced down the steps. Kakashi wished his student good luck before he raced away. Hey Yujito, you ready to go? B asked. Yujito sighed, tired of her sensei's rapping, and said, yeah, I'm ready. B grinned and said, then get this show on the road. Wee hee. Yujito had an annoyed look on her face as she walked into the arena. Kiba took a whiff of the air and softly growled. He smelt the scent of a cat. So, you ready? Kiba asked as he put on a feral grin. Yujito grinned and got into her stance. Kushina took this as a sign that they were ready and started the match. Kiba and Yujito raced towards each other with Akamaru right at Kiba's side. Kiba threw a punch at Yujito, and she bent backwards as it flew over her face. She performed a handstand and kicked Kiba in the chest with her heel digging into the skin. Kiba flew backwards and Akamaru went and bit into Yujito's leg as she turned back upright. Yow! Yujito yelped as she shook her leg wildly to try and get Akamaru to let go. Kiba used this opportunity to kick her in the back, sending her flying as Akamaru let go. Yujito landed on her feet with the grace of a cat. She then made several hand seals and took a deep breath. Katan, Eo Gokakyu no Jutsu. Yujito breathed out a large blue fireball that scorched the ground beneath it as Kiba jumped out of the way. Blue fire? Is that a side effect of the Nibi? Naruto asked. The Nibi has the ability to use blue fire since she's practically made of it, Kyuubi said. Though, she also can use regular fire. Is blue fire hotter than regular fire? Jiyu asked. The Nibi's is, Her flames are the second hottest type of fire in the world, only the Amaterasu can overpower it. Well, that was unexpected, Kiba said as he looked at his singed coat. What? Were you expecting me to use lightning? Yujito asked with a smirk. Nah, you looked more like a Suiton person, Kiba said. Yujito arched an eyebrow at this and wondered what about her appearance made her look like a Suiton user. Kiba saw that she was distracted and performed a Gitsuga with Akamaru. The twin tornadoes flew through the air and hit her in the stomach, sending her flying into the wall. Again Akamaru. Kiba shouted as he and his partner made another Gitsuga to hit Yujito. You mess with the cat, Yujito started, you get the claws. Her fingernails and toenails extended into sharp claws. When Kiba came close to her, she jumped into the air and slashed at the spinning tornado. Kiba fell to the floor with shallow cuts on his back cutting through his jacket. Akamaru ran over to Kiba and whimpered in worry. Don't worry boy, that damn demon cat the fire daimyo's wife has gives me cuts worse than this, Kiba reassured the small dog. Who am I kidding? Those things hurt. Kiba wailed mentally. So even Konoha has to catch a runaway animal for their daimyo's wife too, Yujito thought in amusement. Your human leaders can't keep a simple animal from running away. A voice purred in the back of her head. Must be some smart animals, Yujito thought. As smart as your friend who thinks of the worst-case scenarios? The voice asked. You know Omoi's just a bit paranoid, Yujito defended. Just a bit? The voice asked incredulously. Before Yujito could answer, she had to dodge a punch that came from Kiba as he engaged her in a fierce taijutsu match. Both of them traded blows as they tried to beat their opponents. Kiba overextended his punch and Yujito capitalized on that. She flipped her over her shoulder and pinned him to the ground as she had a claw aimed at his throat. Akamaru was prepared to charge at the cat-smelling lady, but stopped when she pinned Kiba, not wanting to provoke her to doing anything to his best friend. Give up, Yujito demanded. Kiba had no choice, especially with the sharp, pointy object aimed at his throat. Kushina declared Yujito the winner and she got off of Kiba, and extended a hand to help him up. Kiba grasped her hand and was pulled to his feet. Nice match, I haven't had a good fight in a while, Yujito complimented. Something tells me that you weren't going all out, were you? Kiba asked. I'm forbidden from going all out unless I'm in a life-or-death situation, Yujito answered. Kiba nodded and went back up to the balcony. Along the way, he sniffed his hand and unconsciously smiled. Smells nice, for a cat lady. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this what if and want to see next part of it, comment down below and let me know. Also share this video with your friends. See you in the next video. Peace.